Hello and welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the flip through the Seafarer album. Yeah, I'm so lucky. Now it is ready and I can show you my pages and all my things I put inside as embellishments. First of all, I have to say what I didn't want to put something on my cover, a mold or paper or something like that, because I like my cover and the shiny colors and the acrylic paints and also my structure paste. These are some are handmade and some are from Stamperia or from Nuvo, and I really like the image and I think it is enough, and you can see what I want to show you. It is the sea, the ocean and little islands inside, and the only thing I put on my cover is the closure, because of course you have to do something to close your album. I think it is a very big one, and originally I didn't plan something big as this cover, but now I'm lucky with my result and I think it is okay. I protected my cover with varnish and I put a lot of varnish on my cover, but I only use a thin varnish, and when I dried it, and again I use it with a paintbrush and let it dry for hours. I like it so much when I open the first page and I can see now my Seafarer and also the sailing ship. It is the mould by LaBlanche, and on the left side there is the telescope, and on the back side I put magnets, so you can put all things together with the magnets to the cover. And of course I made little pockets, and here is now my little lady, and I think it is a great card, and you can write things down or you can put a photo inside. And this is now my lovely mould. I bought it from LaBlanche and I really like the details of the mould, and behind is a stamp from Stamperia, and I embossed it with silver embossing powder. Yeah, and you can put it back. There are two pockets, one bigger and one smaller. Yeah, and the telescope is made with resin. It is a clear resin, of course. I used the mold from Stamperia and I put clear resin inside, and when it was after one day, I think more than 12 hours, when it was hard and of course dry, I discovered that I could use the telescope as a magnifying glass. I hope you can understand what I mean. And that was surprising for me. And first of all, I thought, yes, you can use it as it is. And when I was thinking, perhaps you can color it with acrylic paints and so on. But this is now, I think it is a good idea to let it as it is. And now I have something very special inside my album. And now I will open my closure, and you can see my ribbon and also the little pearls and things I bought from a shop named Funkelkram in Germany. And everything holds my papers together. Behind are handmade papers, I show you soon. And here now is an embellishment from Stamperia from mould, and this is a charm also I bought from Funkelkram. And here is a belly band, and when you open now this page, it is by the way a digital print, And behind is simple copy paper in blue. And okay, it is the painting is not handmade, but I used a stencil on my papers, and I used a very big one. It is a 12-inch by 12-inch stencil from Stamperia, and I used my Distress Oxide inks. I tried to use only the blue Distress Oxides. Yes, and of course you can ask yourself, what can I do with blue copy paper in front of the album? But it is a very nice place to have some papers for your memories, and you can write things down. I like pockets, as you know, and here is now a pocket, and inside my pocket is a DIN A5 little journal. Is not the right word, it is too small for it. You will see what I mean. Here are now two images, and I printed it with my printer and cut it out. It is a little bit smaller than DIN A5, and on the back side it is the same. Behind my belly band is the seahorse. Yeah, and when you open now the paper, you have a little surprise. Yeah, a little pop-up element. I mixed several papers. Here, this one is the same image, only a little bit smaller. And on the left side, there is a pocket for my tag. And this is another paper, but also a digital print. And this one you can put away if you want. Only this little side of a page is not glued together, so you can change your images when you want. Yeah, and here is now my feather. It is a very nice stamp from EFCO, and I thought it is a good place for my image here. Yes, and you can close it without any problems. And this was my little surprise, a pop-up element. Yeah, and now the next page. All these prints are from an Etsy shop, and you can find the description and the name of the paper in my info box. And this is the opening for my flap. I used the brad, and so you can use the little scrap to close your papers. Yeah, and behind this flap is an envelope. It is an envelope made with packaging paper, and inside my envelope is a card. It is a card I made long time before. I used an embossing folder. It is a 3D one, and I bought this 3D embossing folder in a shop named Action, and I used simple blue colors. And when I used a silver wax paste from Pent Art. Yeah, this is a die. I used a die for this embellishment. And now you can see my tag. I put it behind my flap, and I can use my little scrap, the brad, to close my flaps, and also my tag is behind the paper. Now I will show you the next page and also the next closure. It is the blue flap, and underneath the light blue paper there is a jute ribbon. And in this ribbon I put some embellishment. This is a little book. It is handmade, and I made it with soft clay. It is an air drying clay, and I put something inside on the top. I think you can see it now on the little photo. And so you can easily put the things inside your jute ribbon. It was a lot of fun to make this little book, and I thought it is a nice embellishment for my album. Yeah, and when I open now my flaps, you will find inside my pocket a card. It is made with different papers, and also I used my embellishments, which I used dies for it, and I used it with my die cutting machine. This is the seahorse, and behind my seahorse I used my hand-colored packaging paper, and it has the look of a silhouette of my seahorse. And on my seahorse I used my liquid glue, because I know my liquid glue will dry clear and it will give a little bit of shine on my project. So you have a nice glossy effect, and also you have protected your little seahorse. And behind you can see now my scraps. I glued different papers together, and yeah, behind now my seahorse is the digital print, and yeah, I think they fit perfectly together. When I'm looking through my album, I see now all my embellishments, and yeah, you never know how much time you spend for your embellishment for an album, but I know it very well because I made all these embellishments. Again, of course, my second signature has also a pocket, and inside my pocket is a little journal. Yeah, and this journal is also handmade with a handmade paper. I use very often my packaging paper, and I use it underneath my projects, and sometimes you will see my stamps I use on the paper and also my colors. And then I cut my paper and use different folders and paste and something like that, and when you cut your paper you have a very nice image, and you never know that it was something you would normally put in your trash. By the way, the seahorse and the other things, the little embellishments in blue, are cut with my brother's Scan and Cut, and these papers were ugly, were really not nice, and I colored it with blue color. Here you can see I mixed everything. I mixed my digital prints, my handmade papers, stamps, and also the packaging paper on the left side. It is really a packaging paper. And I put several papers together, and I used a bread, but I will show it later. This is also an embellishment I I cut with my brother Scan and Cut, and I used stamps from Pink Ink Studio. Yeah, and this stamp is from Tim Holtz. This is a notepad, and it is made with papers from an envelope and also packaging paper. And in the middle on the top I made a hole with my crocodile, and I used a bread to hold everything together. And when you don't want your paper inside anymore, you can open the bread and take your papers out, and yeah, you can cut new papers and put it inside. Yeah, and the pocket is now perfectly for my notepad. Yeah, on the right side you can see now my page, which is not really perfect. It is not a perfect print, but I use it for my journal because I don't want to throw it away. And it is something, I don't know it is the right word for it, the draft modus. I have forgotten to change the printer to the normal printing, and when you don't do it, you will have stripes. But sometimes you really have stripes in your paper because the man or the woman who made the paper planned it. Yeah, and this is now very interesting because I used my seahorse on this page and I used a little brush and I paint my distress oxide around, and when you have also the printing of the seahorse on the other page. Yeah, and this is now something like a pocket, and inside this little pocket I put a card, and yeah, I show you now which stamps I used. By the way, these stamps were by Pink Ink. Yeah, this is an embossed card. I used this distress oxide spray on my card, and then I put my distress oxide ink on the embossing folder and run the embossing folder with my paper through my switch, and yeah, you will have the blue distress oxide on your yellow print. And yeah, this is a very nice effect, and I think it is something you should try. Perhaps you will have great results. Yeah, now I will put my paper behind my pocket, and there are also stamps from Tim Holtz and Funkelkram, and I can show you now that nothing is really fixed together because I don't want to sew it or glue it, because I perhaps want to add something or change my papers, and you will never know. Perhaps you also want to put photos inside and want an extra page, and yeah, okay, I think you will understand what I mean. Yeah, here I have now different pockets. One is made with packaging paper and one is left over from vellum. Yeah, and on the right side a very nice scene. Perhaps it's a port or something like that, yeah. And now I will flip through my next pages, and this is a little tag. It is also left over, and I put it in a little corner, and this corner is a cloud. It was also cut with my scan and cut printer, plotter. Yeah, and sometimes I use things like that also as corners. This is a stamp by Tim Holtz, and yeah, for Seafarer I think it is okay. Yeah, the stamps are really nice from Tim Holtz, and they are small stamps, and yeah, also stamps from Funkelkram are really nice for my album. Again, a little pocket and a tag, and behind this pocket is an envelope, and also here is a leftover, and yeah, I showed you before what I made with it, yes. And yeah, it is again a pocket, and when you turn it around, you will see that it is an envelope. I made it with packaging paper. It is all handmade, and inside my packaging paper is this very nice stamp. I like it very much, and it is not colored, but yeah, you can color it later. I think I will use my distress oxide and I will color it. Yeah, and now I will show you the next page. And also here are different flaps, and this is now my flap with a brad, and I used a tag from the digital print and I used it for the closure for my different flaps. Behind the flaps I glued an envelope. It is a very small one and it is in my set. Here are little embellishments, a fish and also a tag with sailing ship. And behind are some words, yeah, in German. Okay, and now I can show you how I glue the things together. I glued only the little flap of this envelope on the other side, and I made a little belly band with my shell, and behind my shell are now tags. Here are two different flaps, and behind each flap is a packaging paper which I colored, and I used different stencils and also tags and stamps. And here is a little bottle, and inside the bottle is a letter. It is a very nice stamp from Ciao Bella, and yeah, here is my little sailing ship, and also a stamp from the set Ciao Bella. Yeah, and behind my white paper is a tag inside a little pocket, and now I can show you something special. It is also rolled together with a brad. It is made with parts of a circle. It was black cardstock, and you can open it like this, and behind is this lovely stamp from Funkelkram. And in front of my circle, the print, the lighthouse, is from Spellbinder, and I used silver embossing powder. And the whole dark blue paper has a very nice shine, and I think it is a very nice closure and a little surprise. Yeah, and now I will show you the next page, and of course here are again some surprises, and also for me a little surprise because I forgot a page. I make now a voiceover, and I was thinking, there was a little mermaid, and where is my mermaid? Yeah, when you open the flap you have again a page, and you can open now the flap, and now you will see my stamp. It is from Lavinia, and it is a mermaid, and the little mermaid holds a blue ball or something like that in her hand. And for this I used Nouveau Glow drops, and these things are shiny only when you have a very bright light on your glow drops, and when you put everything in the dark, they will shine like this. Great effects, and I like things like these. Yes, and behind my mermaid is also a little pocket, and I can put a tag or a picture or a photo behind. Perhaps you can recognize different stamps from Lavinia. One of these stamps I used upside down, and I didn't use the stamp. Yeah, and now I will show you that I also used different drops. The blue ones are glow drops, and the other ones are something with a little glitter and shine inside. And on the horizon I used Wing of Stella, and for the plants which are coming from above. I had stamps from Clarity stamps, and I used these things now for the surrounding. I like creating scenes like this, and yeah, it is always fun to do it, and you have a nice result for your journals, for your cards, and it is always good to have something like that, and you can prepare it and use it when you want it. Yeah, and now I want to close my flaps, and it is now time for my next page, for my next surprises and flaps and things like this. Yes, this page is made with a jelly plate, and finally I made a print, something like a print it is, with my stencil, and I turned around a ribbon, and behind the ribbon is a little envelope, and inside my envelope a tag, and I had a few die cuts and I glued them on the tag. For a while I had my dark blue ribbon with white shells in my decoration, and now it is time for another place, and it is the place inside my album. I made two little pockets for my card, and I used it because I think it is a good idea to avoid that the card slips out of my ribbon, and yeah, I want to fix everything. Yes. This is, by the way, a stamp by Stampin' Up, and I colorized my card with Distress Oxides, and I use the same stamp inside my card. For me it was a lot of fun to colorize the card, and I like these scenes. I have a few of lighthouses and also other things in my album. Yeah, and now you can see in the middle a stamp by Funkelkram, and I used the stamp in front of my pocket, and behind my pocket is this little tag, and behind the yellow paper is again a pocket and also a tag. And yeah, all these things belong to my prints, to my digital prints. This is also a flap. You can open it like this, and now you can see the bottom, and also there is a pocket. I like my pockets, and here is again one with my diver. It was a print from my printer, and it was not the best print, and I used it now for my diver and also the stamps from LaBlanche, and I colorized it with Distress Oxide inks. And at the edges I used here for my pocket stamps from Tim Holtz, and I also used Distress Oxides, and yeah, now I can put everything in my pocket. And when you turn the flap, you have a wonderful card, I think, and these stamps are from Pink Ink Studios, and I used different embossing powders. A silver one, a gold one, the rosé one, the pink one is from Lawn Fawn, and two shells are made with an embossing powder from Lawn Fawn, which is glowing in the dark. And it is not easy to show you now with the sunlight, but I will show you a photo, and then you can see the nice effect when it is glowing in the dark. First of all, I carried my album into the sunlight, and then afterwards I carried it again in a dark room, and now you can see my stamps, and they are really glowing in the dark. I like things like these, and yeah, it is working. I had a few problems with my powder, with my embossing powder with Lawn Fawn, but it really works and it is a nice effect. I really was happy with my 2 shells. Sometimes it is worthwhile to do something like that, and yeah, embossing powder glowing in the dark. I like really things like that. Yeah, and now I show you my last things on this page. I made a little flap and I used a die, and the paper was not long enough for my die, but I used it now for this little paper and it was perfectly. These flaps and pockets are really useful for your photos, for your writings and memories and tickets and something like that. The paper, I like it. It is really, really beautiful. The advantage is that you can print it again and again, and if you need one more page, it is not a problem. For this signature and for the special pocket, I made a junk journal. And the word sailor is made with an embossing folder. It is a 3D embossing folder from Tim Holtz. And I fussy cut the letters, and I wanted to highlight the letters with gold, and I used a gel marker. It is one from Sakura. In the background you can also see silver shining paper, and it is a mirror card, and I used also a 3D folder by Tim Holtz. When you open now the first page, you can see again paper I made with a 3D embossing folder, and this page is DIN A5, and of course the embossing folder is smaller, but you can use it and turn it around, and you can make also bigger prints with your embossing folder. And inside this page I made pockets so I can put a tag behind. Yeah, and I colored, of course, my embossing folder with distress ink. You can see the new colors, the Uncharted Mariner. The blue paper is simple copy paper, and I used a stencil and distress oxides on my blue paper. On the blue paper I glued paper which I used in an embossing folder from Funkelkram. And now I will tell you how I made this page and this pocket. First of all, I used my distress oxide sprays. It was a yellow spray on my paper and let it dry. And then I put distress oxide, it was Uncharted Mariner, on one side of my embossing folder, and I put my paper into my embossing folder and roll it through my die cutting machine. And when you have a result like this, and I use my paper as a pocket, and inside a pocket is again a pocket. Yeah, it is again a digital print, and I can put things inside this little nice pocket with the little Seafarer, and on the top is a little shell. Again, you can see that I used different papers. The blue copy paper, the printed paper, and here is now something I made with packaging paper. This is embossed paper, and I try to combine different things. I like to do it because I think you give more interest to your album. And it is of course a lot of fun to make something with your packaging paper. I use stamps, different sprays, distress oxides, and also paste and something like that. And yeah, on the right side is a print, and it is not the perfect print because I didn't use my normal settings for my printer. And on the next page I used my stripes from my papers, and on one paper it is the print with different ribbons with cords and something like that. I used it, and it is a DIN A5, no, not DIN A5, DIN A4 page, and of course a stripe ribbon is too long for the paper for DIN A5, and so I turned it around and glued it on the other page. Yeah, here you can see all the details of the prints, and I like it very much. Yeah, and here again I colored, I used my distress oxides, and I put another paper underneath, and when you use your brush, and yeah, you have, I think it looks like you have a print of the paper underneath on the top of your white paper. I hope this makes sense. I like it, and on the right side is again packaging paper, and I used different papers. I glued them together, and I used again stencils and dark distress oxide sprays. The design paper is so beautiful, and the page is now full of things, and I think it is enough, and I don't want to put things extra on this lovely paper. Here is a train, a tag with a train, and it is a Seafarer, a maritime album, but also people who want to travel to the ship, perhaps they traveled with a train, and yeah, so I thought the tag is not a bad idea. And here is again a paper which I made with distress oxides. It is a watercolor paper, and I put also a tag on the page. As you know, this is a junk journal, and of course I use my papers even when they are not perfectly, and the print was not as perfect as I wanted it to be, but okay, I've forgotten to change my printer settings, and yeah, now I use the papers like they are. Yeah, and now I think only the blue paper, and then the backside is black. Yeah, these are the last pages of my junk journal. On this blue copy paper, I used a very big stencil from Stamperia. It is a 12 by 12 inch stencil, and I used antique linen distress oxides on the paper, and it has an interesting look, and I like it now how it is. Yeah, and now I think it is time to show you my next signature and my little clip. It is handmade, and I made it with clear resin, and inside the clear resin is glitter, and this helps now to give it an ember finish. I like my little embellishment, and I want to put it behind my ribbon. It is a jute ribbon. Behind my jute ribbon is a very big flap, perhaps something like a belly band, but it is not glued on the bottom of my album, so it is more than a big flap. And on my big flaps are two little envelopes, and now you can see the envelope is glued onto my blue paper, and inside these little envelopes are tags. Yes, and of course every tag belongs to my designer paper, and I fussy cut them, and I have now different tags and I will use them in my album. Here is now a pocket, and inside my pocket are also little tags. Yeah, and this is now the front of my belly band. And there are two pages, and I hold these pages now together. These are flaps with an envelope and a hidden clip, and I will show you now what I mean. You can take it off, and here is now a little embellishment I made with a stamp, and inside this paper is a metal clip, and you can use it to close your page. On my circle with my stamp, I glued glossy accent, and this has now a very shiny effect. Yeah, and here's now my envelope, and inside my envelope, of course, is a tag. A very nice envelope, I like it. A map behind. And now you can open the flaps, and then you can see the whole page. And here are now two cards, and they all belong to this lovely designer paper. Inside you can write something, or you can use it for your photos. Now I want to close everything. I use now my envelope and again this little paper clip, and inside the hidden metal clip. Yeah, and everything is nice and it holds everything together. Yeah, and of course also my last signature has a pocket inside, and here is now another surprise, and really nice papers, and they all belong to my designer paper, which I bought from an Etsy shop. And yeah, I really like the nice color, these nice colors, and the prints are really, really good. Also on the back side I made a belly band, and behind I put this nice image. And yeah, now I will open my card, and ta-da! Now you have a pop-up element. And this is a balloon, and when you open my flap, yeah, perhaps you can imagine that now the balloon will start, and behind is the ship. With your hot air balloon, you can make a journey, you travel to your ship, and then you have a map and world map, and you can decide where you want to travel. On the right side, there's also a flap and a pocket, and again an envelope, and I glued it only on this part onto my page. And when you turn it over now, you can put things inside your little envelope, your little pocket. Of course, you can put little things inside the pocket and also tags inside the pocket. I show you now that it is possible. And you can change your paper. You can do whatever you want. This was now my last pocket, but of course not the last surprise. Now I will show you the last page in my album, and this is now a ribbon, a cotton ribbon, and a closure I bought from a shop named Funkelkram. And you can open now this element, and then you have two big flaps. Now you can see that it is also possible to put things behind, but I left it clean and simple. And this is now my last page, and it is a really big print. And inside I made, it is something like an envelope, but it's also something like a card. And inside is a paper with a map and also little flaps, and you can put things behind. And behind is here now a pocket, and inside the pocket again a pocket. I like things like that, and yeah, you can close it, and I like my little details. On the left side is a card I made with stamps, and here is a tag, and I glued little die cuts on it, and this is now my stamp. And in one of my videos I showed you how I made this little small one card. You can, by the way, you could use this image also on a slimline card. I think it is possible. Behind the flap is also a print I made on my own with my jelly plate, and here again you can see there is a pocket, and behind is this wonderful photo of a little girl. And this is a print I made with a jelly plate, and I used on my paper different stencils and also a modeling paste, and you can feel it that there is a little bit structure on my paper. And I want to show you now that you can close everything, even your flap, with this little card, and you put it behind the belly band and inside the pocket, and everything is it holds everything together. Again, a fish and a pocket for my little fish, and yeah, you can see that I cut the corners a little bit, I rounded them, and yeah, again I used my paper for little pockets, and this was made with a stamp and also my embellishments. This is a handmade print. I used my jelly plate and different stencils. This is a stamp from Nellie Snell, and I like the sailing ship so much. And this is now my album. It is finished. I am so lucky, and it was a lot of fun to make my Seafarer album, and I'm very proud, and of course I want to use it now for my photos, for my memories and all these things, and I have now a very nice place for my memories. And it is a very big album. It is a DIN A4 album, and it is the first time I made such a big album, but it is really a nice hobby, and I want to show you what is possible to make also with your scraps and things you have in your crafting room. You can make your own little things and also bigger things. And I hope it was an inspiration for you. And now I want to thank you for your visit and that you spent your time with me and my album. Yeah, and I want to say that it was a lot of fun to make it, and it was a great pleasure for me to present it for you. Yeah, and now I hope you like it, and perhaps you can write a little comment, or if you want, you can also subscribe to my channel. That would make me very happy. Yeah, it was really a long journey, but I learned a lot with this album, and I hope it was interesting for you. And for now, I say goodbye and wish you a wonderful day and happy crafting.